Of all the Zelda series' many mysteries, few were quite as iconic as A Link to the Past's Chris Houlihan room. Shortly after the game released in 1992, rumours circulated of players accidentally stumbling into a secret area, a hidden cave where they could find rupees, and a message from someone called Chris Houlihan. I managed to get into this room twice by accident when I was a kid. My friends thought I was crazy or a liar. I remember accidentally finding the room as a kid and being confused as all hell as to what I had found, because when I tried to show or tell someone else, we couldn't ever find it. When I played Zelda 3, I once found this room. I've always wondered about it. Actually, I spent about a week retrying to do it while taping the game. No luck. Decades later, in our time of unlimited information, we know that these rumours weren't unfounded. The Chris Houlihan room does exist. These people weren't crazy or liars, like those who claim to have beat the Running Man or found the Triforce in Ocarina of Time. But despite this, the room and the identity of Chris Houlihan himself still remains a mystery. The top secret room can be accessed in a few ways, notably only in the original version of the game and not in the GBA re-release. All methods involve using either the Pegasus boots or the bombs to adjust Link's Y-axis position and have him transition between screens while being in one of the two bottommost pixels. This alignment results in the game not quite understanding where Link should end up when he drops into a hole, placing him, instead, into the secret area. It's believed that this room was designed as a failsafe. If this alignment error occurs, then Link will end up here rather than crashing the game. This means that, while the room is hidden, it's likely that thousands of people playing A Link to the Past in the 90s discovered it by themselves, that they accidentally triggered this failsafe when playing the game normally, but understandably didn't know how to recreate it. So the mystery of A Link to the Past's secret room isn't really a mystery at all. A debug room filled with rupees to reward players who accidentally stumble upon it, and a plaque on the wall reading, "My name is Chris Houlihan. This is my top secret room. Keep it between us, okay?" Wait, what? Who's Chris Houlihan? Of course, the true mystery here is not just the room itself, but its apparent owner, one Chris Houlihan. The story of Chris Houlihan is a strange one, with very little known about who he was or if he even existed at all. It's notable that his name only appears in the English localization of the game. In other regions, the sign only states that this is a secret room and no more. So Houlihan is somehow linked to Nintendo of America's translation of the game. And the most popular, feasible theory is that he was the winner of a contest in a 1990 issue of the Nintendo Power magazine. Issue 16 of Nintendo Power released shortly after the launch of the original Final Fantasy on the NES, and so included a contest centered around this new game. This was called the Warmech Challenge, and the magazine invited readers to find and photograph an encounter with a Warmech. The Warmech is a very rare enemy that can only be encountered in one specific section of the game, making this challenge much more difficult than it would seem, especially in 1990, when information on games was far more difficult to come across. A winner was to be selected from those who sent in a photograph of this elusive enemy, and their name would be immortalized in gaming history by being programmed into a future Nintendo game. The competition came and went, but no winner was announced. The Warmech Challenge was never again mentioned in Nintendo Power, and there was no sign of a fan's name being programmed into any of Nintendo's new releases. Until 2 years later, with the release of The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, and the enigmatic secret room belonging to somebody named Chris Houlihan. Again, this room is a debug area, and is very difficult to access without prior knowledge of its existence. In the early years of A Link to the Past's release, it likely confused everyone who encountered it. Even if they'd known about the Warmech challenge from years earlier, they likely wouldn't assume that this was the identity of the person who claimed ownership of it. It wasn't until 2 years later that some light was shined on this mystery. An issue of the official Club Nintendo magazine in Latin America seemed to confirm that Chris Houlihan was indeed the winner of Nintendo Power's Warmech challenge. According to the magazine, they asked Nintendo directly about the secret room, and they confirmed that Chris Houlihan is the name of the boy that won a Nintendo Power contest, and with it, he also won the right to have his name programmed in the game. Curiously, this interview implies that Nintendo themselves weren't really certain on how the room functioned. They claim that it appears randomly, and that it wouldn't appear at all on certain cartridges. This isn't true. We now know exactly how to access the room, and it is possible on all versions of the original game. Regardless, surely that settles it. Chris Houlihan won the right to have his name written in one of the most iconic video games of all time. But despite this seemingly concrete evidence, there remains some doubt. The real Chris Houlihan will not stand up. Many winners of Nintendo Power competitions, especially those with a prize as prestigious as having their name in a Zelda game, were celebrated in the magazine itself, or have since identified themselves in interviews about their experience. But Nintendo Power stayed silent on this A Link to the Past mystery, until finally acknowledging it almost 8 years after the competition ended. In 1998, Chris Houlihan's name appeared in an issue of Nintendo Power, a tiny acknowledgement in a largely unrelated column. The magazine reads, "In 1992, NP contest winner Chris Houlihan secured his place in gaming history by having his name featured in a hidden area in The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past." So, officially, the Chris Houlihan room is dedicated to the winner of a magazine contest. But the ambiguity around him remains. Nintendo Power never explicitly confirmed that he was the winner of the Warmech challenge, nor have we ever learned who the man himself was. And perhaps that's for the best. His identity and the full truth of his story will forever remain a mystery. A name without a face, immortalized in one of the greatest video games ever made. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, leave a like or subscribe if you haven't already for more Zelda content. Cheers guys, and I'll see you next time.